There's really nothing to do about it anymore. I mean, it's frustrating, but I just have to keep going, otherwise I'll lose all the storms. So I really don't know. Everything about this says that I am, but I don't have any verification within the vehicle that I'm broadcasting. So I'm just gonna proceed as if I am live. I already spent way too much time fiddling around with that. Anyway, yeah, it says stop streaming and it says end broadcast. Those are all buttons I could push. I have not. So I'm assuming that they are all working just fine. I really don't know if this is going anywhere. So it seemed like it started up and I broadcast for about 3 seconds at 5 o'clock when this was supposed to start. And then it just shut down. And I don't know why. So part of the issue here is definitely trying to figure out how OBS connects to YouTube. It seemed like the first time I did it on Sunday, I was able to figure it out. But this time around, it's really giving me a problem. So now, I could go live from my phone. That seems really easy to do. And I probably will do that if I get myself in a good situation and we actually are seeing some good chance. I'm already a little late to the game, but knowing that this was going to be a partial nocturnal chase, meaning that I'll probably chase a little bit into official sunset. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing. If you haven't already figured out, I'm going down to Oklahoma. That yellow area is the tornado watch that was just issued. And so the nice thing about that storm chase is that it's relatively flat there. The road network is much better. Not a lot of trees in the way. And also, I'm hoping the backlighting is good. So if the storms are individual, like they are forecast to be, and they remain widely spread apart, the likelihood of there being clouds or other storms to the west of what you're trying to chase that would, make the backlighting poor. And so, in other words, if the contrast between the tornado and you is poor, then you're not going to see it, period, no matter what time of day it is. If it's evening, though, and the sun's setting to your west, then you can get some really good tornado shots even well after dark. And I've been on chases where that's happened. So, it's not necessarily the end-all be-all of chasing to get into after sunset hours, but, first day of April, you still don't have a lot of light. So it's just something worth watching. So in my current position, I have not figured out how to do that yet, and I may not ever do that because I'm not exactly sure I want everybody to know exactly where I'm at. I can tell you where I'm at. I'm driving toward Tulsa right now down I-44. And, and this watch area, I'm basically, when I'm just outside Tulsa, I'm just going to be on the extreme eastern end of the watch. So the more I get out of wind farm, and I don't know how I feel about that exactly. Everybody, I guess, seems fine with that. It just seems a little weird. Okay, but at least a wind farm is stationary, so you can zap it out of your data technically, I guess. But the bottom line is you're still not getting data. So anyway, that's a long discussion. But what echoes I see on the screen so far, someone checking all this stuff, I don't think no, I'm actually seeing some thunderstorms. So there are some thunderstorms forming northwest of the Oklahoma City metropolitan area. If I had to guess, let me turn the radar scanning off. Yeah, that's just off to the southwest of Enid. There are some cells popping up. So the trick always is to, in this case, you probably have 2 or 3 cells to choose from, and they may all produce tornadoes. In which case, then lucky me. If my objective is to see one. But more likely than not, they're not always going to all produce tornadoes. So you're going to have to pick 1 or 2 that seem more energetic, seem like they're in a better environment. Oftentimes, the storms that pop up first are probably the ones that are going to get a foothold first. It's not always the case, but a lot of times that's true. So if that's the case, one of the decisions I might want to make is, instead of going down to Oklahoma City, cutting across due east to Tulsa, I forgot what the name of that road is, 400? I think it's Highway 400, the toll road. That might be an option too. I've got about an hour to think about that before I get to Tulsa. Yeah, I wish I knew if I were actually broadcasting it. It says it's streaming. I just don't know to where. I don't know if I'm making a connection or not. So, and that might be it. Maybe it's just a poor connection. I don't know. And I'm a solo storm chaser again today, so there could be people trying to communicate with me saying, "Yeah, I don't see you," or "I do see you," but while I'm driving, that's almost impossible to check. And I'm already stopped long and I'm trying to figure it out. So this stream's either going to work or it isn't. And this is new, and honestly, I'd love to be able to do this. But if it means missing out on most of the storm chase, then it's probably not worth it to me to do this. Which is a bit of a tragedy because I just ordered the Starlink Mini yesterday. So I guess I'm kind of committed to this. That would help with the connectivity issues for sure. But we'll see. And I do have other uses for that if it ends up I don't actually implement it. So if you're just joining us, if you can see me, we're doing a live storm chase down, probably mostly in Oklahoma, but could be into central Kansas too. We're doing a little bit of a race here toward darkness. As I was saying earlier, if there's good backlighting, this chase could go on until 8 o'clock easily. Nighttime chasing is not nearly as satisfying than waiting on lightning to illuminate your way. Everything I know about the meteorology of this event suggests that those echoes I'm seeing southwest of Enid are probably not surface-based. So surface-based is going to depend on your the level at which the thunderstorm forms. It's got to be as low as possible for tornadic thunderstorms to really get going. There are exceptions to everything, of course. But basically, the lower the base of the storm, the better off you're going to be. Because the wind fields that help to cradle tornado development, if they're below the storm base, a lot less likely to aid tornado development. So even though I'm seeing those first storms, I think those probably are elevated, meaning that the bases are very high. But the moisture return today from the Gulf has been steady, but still catching up. So it's going to take all night really to get that deep moisture in there. That's why I think this thread, like a few others, that is going to be a nighttime thread for the folks in this tornado watch, because the overall fields are going to get better and better for tornadoes. And the one thing that will happen is that the dew points will come up while the temperatures come down a little bit, not a whole lot. And south winds across all of Oklahoma have been very steady, deep low pressure off of the northwest, aiding moisture return. So, it's going to be one of those situations where you have to break your thinking that nighttime is going to make storms better because everything's cooling down, and that's not the case here. This is definitely an evening maximum. So those storms that are first forming, I don't know that I need to react to those necessarily. So the discussion I was having about getting off on Tulsa and heading east on 400. I've got, a couple minutes to ponder that. Probably make another assessment here in Tulsa. We have low clouds here, stratus clouds. There's no vertical development here, really. So when I tried streaming for the first time on Sunday, I had help from my son who was trying to get me to reduce the resolution of the camera, and I did that. So now I have a dash cam that's 1080p. I suppose I was going higher than that earlier. I wasn't including this camera of me driving. Including it now, I may decide to turn it off, but again, streaming is an experiment for me. So if it starts to get in the way of the actual chase, then we'll abandon the stream and just go for the chase. And you'll see my recap like you always do. But live is cool. I'd like to be able to get this to work. And actually, it didn't work last time. It was on the whole time, just about. But it was laggy. A lot of dropped frames. Got some other storms forming just south of that one I referenced, that's southwest of Enid. So it looks like if I had to guess, I would think that just the fact that we have storms there, which was something that wasn't even in the discussion a couple of days ago, really, is a good sign that others will take hold. And the more, again, my thinking here is that the more south you head, within limits, whereas the southernmost storm is, in most cases, in this particular case, is probably going to be tapped into the best resources, the deepest moisture, lowest cloud base. But that's not always true. There are small scale features that are unknowable, really. If I were sitting in the passenger seat and I had time to really analyze the data, I would call it Mesonet, look at some of that stuff, try to figure out where the moisture convergence is, try to figure out a variety of things. Right now, since I kind of had a late start anyway, and I spent about, it's kind of funny, I spent about 10 to 15 minutes wasting my time in Joplin because brilliant road workers decided to block off my access to getting back on 44 West and did not give me an alternative warning at that time or a detour as to how to get on, which that really annoys me to know. So I had to go back into Joplin, around, and exit. Luckily, I know Joplin fairly well. I'm not from Joplin, but I spent a lot of time in Joplin solar panels several times a week at least. Anyway, so I got back on the highway. The other thing, I was trying to set up the streaming, which was supposed to start at 5 o'clock. That's another thing. I go in there, and it's like it almost forces me to schedule it rather than just say go. I'm on a laptop. If I'm on my phone, I can just hit go, and it'll just go. It'll say next step, go. I don't know. But all I know is it still says, OBS still says streaming. My two choices up there are stop streaming and end broadcast. So that implies that there's a stream to stop and a broadcast to end. I don't know. That's beyond me. I don't know. I think that the radar I have up there that has the tornado watch on it and also the SPC outlook for today, so that inner orange polygon is the enhanced area for severe weather, and then the actual yellow is the tornado watch. So, again, I'll be driving into the core of that tornado watch. Tulsa is on the extreme eastern end of that tornado watch. So is Ada, Oklahoma. And the western end is kind of defined by It's not Wichita Falls. It's well, the radar down there, Frederick, Oklahoma. It's about where the line for the tornado watch is, and then it goes all the way up into just about around Wichita, I think. And then the other corner of it might just, they probably drew it shy of getting into Missouri. I know the thinking of that. When I take my next stop here, I'll take a look at some data to show that to you as well. It'd be a real shame if this weren't broadcasting. I have a record function too, but that seems really taxing on my poor laptop if I were to hit that, maybe for brief moments. Or I'd be afraid I would hit that button and then it would crash it somehow. So, again, trying to figure out streaming is not straightforward. Just see, so I'm streaming from my vehicle, and I've thought about the pros and cons of, having the stream set from my house. It still wouldn't improve the connection I would have. It would improve the radar. I wouldn't have to rely on radar, because radar is being treated like a video right now, in a way, because it's streaming constantly from a program on my laptop, radar program, which is really inefficient, because that radar image is not live, and the best you can get under sales, which is a low-level focus on the lower part of the storm, so it comes out more often than a traditional scan on NexRad. Even at best, those are about 2 minutes apart. So I guess if I were ambitious, I could find somebody or find a way to grab the radar images as they update and then upload like a slide deck or something. And in that way, I would be showing an image and not streaming a radar video. It seems like that's a lot of bandwidth. Just an idea. There are a lot of chasers who are solo. They have limitations. Chasers. And then there are people who broadcast during severe weather, and they have chasers that they have as part of their feed, which is a great idea too. Somebody asked me the other day, would you ever consider that? Maybe. The only thing, the only reservation I would have about that is I'm not a full-time chaser. I'm definitely a chaser of opportunity. Can't do everything. So that's an issue. 5:38 in the evening. I'm not exactly sure when sunset out here in central Oklahoma is. I'm guessing it's somewhere between 7 and 7:30, but I'm not sure. Cells continue to get bigger southwest again. So a lot of times there's a working model in storm chasing, and that's the kind of like the daisy chain stepwise form of chasing. And it works well if your storms are forming roughly from northeast to southwest. And it works well if it's on a line of storms, rather it's discrete supercells, which so far has been. Actually, that cell south of Eden moved out a little bit. So anyway, so the idea there is that you go to the northernmost storm that you can get to and to produce, then you drive south and east, or south and west, south and west, south and west, connecting with the continuous line of storms that's going from northeast to south and southwest. So in theory, you should be able to catch these. That requires good timing and a good road network, and it could force you to drive through the Anvil, which could subject you to larger hail, and it could put you, not in an ideal position. In other words, you might put yourself, you really don't want to do this, in a race. You're going south, and the storm's coming at you from southwest. It's like, usually it's going to be okay. But if anything I've learned in storm chasing is that roads are closed. Like, I already had one. It wasn't even in the chase yet. detours, there's things, I don't know, escaped cows. I mean, you never know what you're going to run into. So, so that's one theory. The step down, south to west kind of stair step approach to severe weather, which only works if the storms the line is certainly a broken line, and not a solid one. And their individual cells roughly from a southwesterly direction to a northeast. That does work. The other idea, though, is to be south and east of the storms at all times. The problem with that idea is that, you have to get off the first storm, the storm you're on presently. To get to the next one, you have to stop earlier than you probably want to get in position for the next one. So you're always southeast of the storm. So that can work, but it's a little harder to pull off. It's certainly safer, I think, overall. Those are all the theories. What plays into this, certainly meteorology plays into it. I mean, knowing which storms are going to do what is a big deal. If you know, you don't always know. But a lot of it's road networks, speed limits, river crossings, large areas. There's some cheeses that have large reservoirs in the way, and you have to go around them. It can waste time. So there's a whole part of storm chasing that obviously has nothing to do with the actual storm chase. I wonder if I'm streaming, because my oration is wonderful. I have no idea. This stretch of I-44 is 75 mile per hour speed limit. When I was trying to set up the streaming, State Trooper, I looked up and all of a sudden I saw something behind me. Oh, it's State Trooper. Very nice guy. He was just asking if I was okay. And I think most of the time they're impressed when they see storm chasers. Most of the time, when they're probably not impressed is when storm chasers speed or break the law or get impatient, go through areas you're not supposed to go through. I think this is probably still a problem to this day, but I remember over the years just watching storm chasers, argue about their rights to chase the storms and all that. And I get that, and they probably are right. But it's one of those things where, you get to hold up a sign saying "I was right" while you're sitting in a jail cell. It's like, okay, yeah, you were. You're right. So 100 hours later, and no more chasing for you. So it's kind of interesting. I think most people view storm chasers as an asset. Really, it can cause some problems sometimes. I don't know if you know it. I don't know the state of this at all. Whether it's actually a serious bill or where it's being discussed, and whether it's in the House or Senate, and that's indeed how Oklahoma works. I don't know. But there's a storm chaser bill that is pending that would restrict people. I think if I'm remembering it correctly, they want storm chasers to be almost licensed. Like you have to work for a TV station or some company or something in order to do this. And I think there's a pretty active movement against that. But I haven't done any research on whether that's even a thing still yet. I think that's the last I looked into it was probably several weeks ago. I don't even remember again what the timeline was on that. Fire truck on a bridge on the right there. You can see that. Looks like some construction ahead here. It looks like they're in for another. Looks like they're building another exit. Or they're moving this exit off of Pine Street. Not exactly sure where I'm at. Coming up on Tulsa. I guess I'm a little surprised. I didn't think I was that close. I know they're redoing the ramp around Tulsa here. Hopefully for the better. And the one thing, if you've ever traveled to Tulsa from on I-44 coming in from the east, a really ridiculous, very sharp turn you have to make. Go really slow. You're going to see it in a minute if anybody's watching this. You just get off here, and that's fine. So this whole interchange was built sort of anti-44. Like, all the decisions you're making to stay on 44 are actually exits. Coming and going, east and west. Because they made the priority the road going south at this interchange and the road going east. It's kind of interesting. Kind of contrary to what you would believe. So, yeah, so that real steep curve is coming up there at the bottom and then down this one. Looks like they're trying to make it wider, but Pine Street over there, maybe that's an entirely new exit. I don't know. Yeah, it's this turn right here. So not only is this turn rough, but it has an exit you can miss. And by rough, I mean the road is just awful. You have converging traffic. So yeah, you can see that really revamp this. Looks like all they're doing is widening it, not really improving it. Okay. So coming up here, I'd have to decide. I would get on the Dalton, the airport downtown Tulsa exit, if I wanted to get over to that east-west tollway. I think my gut is telling me to not pay attention to those initial cells, because they're going to vector off to areas just south of Wichita eventually. I think I'm going to hold out for something that forms south of those. Still got a little bit of time. So in other words, I don't really have to make a decision in Tulsa. And I think I don't really want to stop the vehicle to make that decision. I really want to keep pushing forward. So could be a regret, You never know in storm chasing. That can be the cell to chase. I don't know, but the vector wouldn't work out very well. I would, even if I head to west right now from Tulsa, I would miss it. So that's a big decision. So chasing that storm would require me actually completely changing the fundamental idea of this storm chase. And a lot of people who storm chase look at that HRR model, the high resolution model. That one was almost consistently showing supercell development more west of the city, which is what I would be counting on. Again, I don't know if that's going to work out or not. Still says I'm streaming somewhere. Streaming to, I don't know. When and if I decide to stop and look at the meteorology, I can check that. And another thing I'll do is, if there isn't a stream, then I got to be mindful of recording what I'm doing, so I can summarize the chase. If I don't have any video at all. you're just joining us, if there is something to join, how are you doing? This is a live storm chase. I'm experimenting around with streaming live storm chase on YouTube. I'm using OBS on a laptop in my vehicle. I had some trouble getting it started at 5 when it was supposed to start. I think everything is streaming somewhere. Because it says on my OBS that it is streaming. Yep. So I just don't know where the link is. So we'll see. I would think this is logic that OBS wouldn't tell me I'm streaming if I actually weren't connected to anything. It seems to make sense to me. But and by the way, like I was saying earlier, if I were to go to my phone and streaming, it would be very easy to do. So if I don't think I'm streaming and I can get a good shot at a severe thunderstorm structure or even a tornado, I might just switch to my phone and stream. At least we'll get something. We're in Tulsa right now. Just entered the tornado watch. The only active cells on radar right now are approaching on top of Enid, which is kind of northwest of Oklahoma City. Yeah, I was always disappointed that for the longest time they had the old-fashioned cowboy hat Arby's sign. It was on the south side of 44 before you got south of downtown Tulsa before you got in. They finally took it down. Disappointed. So, strong feel knowledge that you're going to get from me because I feel like I need to be entertaining. The reason why that Arby's cowboy hat sign has a lot of importance to me is because when I grew up in Chicago, and in 1967, I was living. Actually, I was born in the city, lived there for most of my life, spent a few years in a town called Flossmoor, Illinois, then moved to Stager, Illinois. We were in Flossmoor still. There was a tornado. A lot of tornadoes that day, but the one I'm talking about is in Oak Lawn. Belvedere was another town that was hard. Oak Lawn was hit by a tornado, which is a very near suburb to the actual city of Chicago. And so, this is 1967. I don't think anybody got that tornado on well, at that time it actually would have been videotaped. And the newspapers at the time, the Sun-Times and the Tribune, both had tornado special editions. And I remember one of the tornado shots had the Arby's sign in the foreground. So it's kind of interesting. The old-fashioned Arby's sign. And so that's, and as a child, I was 5 years old at the time. And, is that right? Yeah. I barely remember any of that. But I kept the newspaper. I still actually have the newspapers. That storm over Enid is now severe thunderstorm 1. So the question would become, would I be able to chase that effectively if I left Tulsa right now? This is one of those judgment calls in chasing. could always fall back to the stair-step method, like I said before. So, even if you miss this one, if the calculation goes right, you still could get there somehow. It is rush hour in Tulsa, so that kind of plays into it too. I see a line of cars. Actually, they're turning it on, so I'm okay. So I'd have to, again, since I'm a one-man band, navigation is fairly good unless I have to make big decisions. Then I actually do stop the vehicle. So that's always the fine line, is trying to feel or not. One thing that would be helpful is to look at satellite imagery to see, where cumulus fields are developing, and that'll give you an idea of whether there's other potential storms behind this one, but might be west, south, or not. So again, when you're driving, I could have that displayed, I guess, satellite image, but again, I would only be able to glance at that and be safe driving. So that's a thing. So if you're wondering, I've said that several times, I'm a lone driver. Do I ever have other people come with me? Yes, I do. But if it's hard because the success rate's not always what it should be. I get a lot of people who try it once and then they remember how long it took. And they're just like, yeah, I really don't want to do that anymore. I get it. My son has gone with me in the past on 3 storm chases. He's got 1 tornado per now. He's actually a really good navigator and he's able to drive, so that's good. In those situations, though, I let that person, my son, for instance, I would let him do the destination driving, and then I would make some broader decisions. And honestly, you stop looking at SPC products, when you're within about, 50 miles of the storm initiation. Because honestly, that's not going to help you very much. Your eyes and your radar are the 2 best tools. You're really not going to be able to glean much from looking at your cape. You should have made those decisions more broadly before you went out. So there's not much to be gleaned. So I don't mind taking over driving when you get actually into storm mode, because I really am not glued to the laptop as much anymore. Looking at radar, and there are numerous discussions out there, and very valid ones, that radar is still only kind of valid as a general tool to kind of show you what's going on. Radar is very valuable for storm motion, general storm motion. Radar is very valuable for seeing other storms pop up that you might miss. Have a good visual on them. So I might consider how long it would take for me to cut and go west, but my feeling is that storm is due west to me right now, so the math doesn't really work. If there were a road that went northwest directly from Tulsa, that could work. And I apologize. What I also need to do is stop real quick and adjust the radar, because right now it shows a big yellow blob of a tornado watch, which you can probably see in the tornado watch. That little polygon, that's the storm I'm talking about. But because I did my homework on the overall setup of this situation, I really do think that severe storm is elevated. So it's going to be capable of gusty winds and large hail. But its base is probably a little bit too high. I'll probably end up chasing it. And now this is a very aggressive convection pattern, meaning that the winds are It's coming up steadily and quickly because the overall surface winds are very favorable. That's even more reason I think all else equal to be deeper is the general rule I'm following on this chase is that the more south you go, and within limits, like within state level, the lower the bases are probably. There are other arguments about dynamics, things like that, but generally speaking, you want lower LCLs, liquid condensation levels. You want those lower. That naturally happens at night because the temperature drops and the dew point goes up. If the temperature drops and the dew point is going up, because the dew point will only change because of advection for the most part. So you want that to rise, and that's certainly going to rise. Temperature is cool. Now that could decrease your stability, but under these type of conditions when you have wind blowing at night, you don't tend to get as much of a diurnal temperature drop. And as long as you don't develop much of a low-level cap, and there's enough instability already there, then your thunderstorms are going to maintain themselves. Then you really are concerned about which ones have the lowest bases, have the deepest roots into the deepest void. I think that's basically what we're doing today. Takes a while to get through Tulsa. So that road right there, east, we can be in downtown Tulsa. That is what's going to lead me to that 400 highway if I chose to do that. I have not. So, again, if this storm is elevated, and I want to catch the next storm, of course, the danger is, what if there isn't a next storm? What if this is it? Well, then that's that. I mean, so chasing an elevated storm, if I absolutely knew nothing else was going to form, I might take time to do that. But there's even a slighter chance that something's going to develop in what I think is a more favored area. I'll just stay on course. Right now, though, I don't see any other development. Well, okay, I do see other cells developing around that one. One problem I have, it's really kind of stupid, is I never changed the radar I'm actually glancing at. It's on Frederick instead of being on Vance or on. So that's cool. I need to fix that. The radar you're looking at is, I think. So, yeah, we'll probably take a break here in just a minute. Figure out. Actually, if I'm gonna get off, it'd be easier to do this in Tulsa because they start charging ridiculous little tools. So probably it would be a good idea to just kind of get off here very soon and kind of redirect the radar, get that watch off of there, zoom in, maybe look at some data with y'all. I think time is a factor here. It's 6 o'clock. And I'm a good 45 minutes to an hour away from any storm initiation. Not counting present company excluded. Present storm excluded. So, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time. Once again, in an ideal world, I would have already been down here. But, life goes on, so it's always an ideal world. Speed limit's 80 here? Wow, I did not know that. I'll say no more. We'll go 80. Just a tad over. That'll help get me to where I need to be. Yeah, I'd love to look at a moisture conversion version of this map I'd love to look at. I'm trying to find some initiation points here. If you're just joining me, if I'm being joined, if I'm interesting, hi, how are you? I'm on a Storm Chase 2. I'll probably spend most of my time in Oklahoma. I'm already pretty committed to that. Just left Tulsa, going down to 44. One cell that is Spirit Thunderstorm that went over Eden, Oklahoma, which is northwest of the city. It's gonna take it. It's gonna pass into Kansas, south of Wichita. I understand the meteorology of this. That's probably an elevated storm. It's probably not worth deviating from my course to chase that. The stream was supposed to be at 5 o'clock, and when I started it, in fact, I looked to verify that I was getting a stream by using my phone, using a laptop on OBS. So on my phone, it looked like I had a stream for like 3 seconds, and then there was an error. I'm not sure what that was. Could have been a connection. I don't know. So everything I thought I had set up left. So I threw something up, and again, because I'm a one man, I don't have chat set up. So if I get a chance here, I'm gonna text home, see if my son can get on there and see. Here's a good. I'm not gonna get pinged by any tolls. I don't think I will. Anyway. The metropolitan area, so I can get away with getting off without paying a toll. I've got the money to pay for that. Oh. Why did I not do that? Change radars, take a look at some meteorology, do some adjusting, record what I'm doing, just in case this is streaming at all. Oh, yeah, it's fighting fast. We're not fighting fast. It's like it's gonna. No, I'm gonna. Oh, keep moving. Okay, good. Yeah. Okay. Almost. In case you haven't been to Oklahoma in a while, almost all these are keep moving now. You don't have to name them. Okay, we're gonna go to this QT. One of my favorite places to stop. And let's make some adjustments here. One of the things I guessed up in Joplin, and sorry, I'm not going to give you very interesting. Look at a fence. I like it. All right, so let's see what we got here. So I might get some gas. So when you this sense to get a full tank of gas. So let me make some adjustments here. First thing we're going to do is call up the radar. It's here. Okay. I'm going to go to Place File Manager. We're going to get rid of these overlays. Okay. Then we're going to see which radar we're using. Oh, we're using Vance Air Force Base. That's actually really good. It's right on top of that cell. So, but what I think I'm going to do is change to Twin Lakes, which is Oklahoma City. I called it Norman earlier. It's Twin Lakes radar. Got called up here. And I'm changing radars based on the idea that that's going to be where I'm going to be. So I can also change radars here. Didn't see all that. Okay. Well, we do have some other cells forming south of that original cell. So it does make me think that that is something I might want to pursue. I have to check my navigation here. Okay. Go back to the feed. Okay. So I changed. We could do better on that radar. Let's see. Keep that there. So I'm looking at the storm structure of that radar. Actually, I'm going to turn the LSRs off. No, I don't know. It's right about there. So the Enid storm is on the top. Oklahoma City is in the bottom center. If I've done things correctly. Is UBS feed? Yeah. Okay. And maybe I should swap those out. So maybe I should put. So maybe I should put the radar on top of the feed. So let's drag that up to there. Yeah, do that. I don't know if I'm happy with that or not, but there you go. And now the ball is in the wrong place. There we go. Okay. Now I was talking about meteorology, so let's pop up that window and let's go to our web page. Mesoanalysis. Okay, so if you look at the mesoanalysis here, what I was referring to, a lot of unstable air, so the is down around, well, just around Wichita Falls. And they're actually in an area where that instability is increasing, but it's relying on, again, moisture coming from the south. If we go to our basic surface map, like this, so you can see the deeper greens actually have advected up into Enid. Okay, so that's interesting. So there's almost kind of like a little bit of a, it's kind of funky down around Frederick, Oklahoma. There's kind of a slight deviation, but I can see why I can see that. One thing I always look at, even though I know it's kind of a really well view, but I can't help myself. I always look at the significant tornado parameter and the effective layer. See what that's been reading here. Okay, well that's right over. But other storms are forming south of it. So one of the decisions I might make is to leave here. I do want to take a look at. I do want to take a look at one more meso data point. I want to look at CL height. I'm not sure it's going to be. Hello. Hello. LCL heights are generally, there's an interesting little flare up here where rotation on that storm north of me. don't think I'm going to be able to get that one. Well, yeah, I think the timing is going to work out bad. I had made a decision before I got gas that I was going to go up there, and now I'm not so sure. Now that I see the activity around Wichita Falls, I think that'll get into the. Hopefully, storms will fill in between that. So if I get to Oklahoma City, yeah, I think I'm going to continue to go down 44. It could be, again, when you're a storm chaser, you are used to leaving storms behind. It's just part of what happens. So we're going to turn this on real quick. Turn the cabin cam back on. Hi. If you're wondering what I eat on storm chases, I try to be low carb. These are great. Also, spicy pickles are good. Me. Number of poor food choices is mind-boggling. I didn't verify whether I'm doing a stream right now or not. Honestly, stop one more time. Grab my phone. And kind of do a synopsis video here so I have something for when I review this chase. All right, well, there's the live storm feed. If it is live, everything about OBS is telling me it is live. So we have some activity that's forming. You can see my location there, just southwest of Tulsa. There's some rotation in that storm, but the math is not going to work out real well unless I go due north from Tulsa right now. And I'm thinking that those storms are going to lead. All right. Scanning the pipe, but I didn't see where the actual mechanism was for that, or where the old tool was. I guess I really wasn't paying attention. Oh yeah, it's right there. Okay. Yeah, mount it overhead. This one right here. Yeah. All right. Back on 44. Again, decision making, storm chasing. It's very tempting to chase what you see happening already. But, you know, for that to have worked for me, I would have had to make the decision, and I almost did, to travel, let's say, through southern Kansas. Um, and I would have been okay. I tell you, the advantage to that would have been I would have gotten those storms while it was still light outside. No. I believe most of this is in the last phase. This means it's 80. It seems like I'm going really fast. I'm not even at 80, more like 78. I just did back there was a meteorology check. And I had half a tank of gas when I'm an hour out from hitting the storms. I like to cool up if I have a chance. And I went to the bathroom. Now, you probably noticed I was drinking a pretty large soda. It's not a great idea. And, but I've kind of perfected the art. And males can do this. If I ever have to go to the bathroom, I absolutely can't wait any longer. I'm kind of perfected the art of being on the passenger side. And open the door and, do my thing and make it look like I'm filling with whippers. Pick up something and look at it, but all the while I'm evacuating. Just one of the funniest scenes in Austin Powers, among many. I have other, if you're wondering, again, I don't know if anybody's listening, seeing this, but I kind of upgraded my setup here for streaming. Made things a little bit easier to see. I have a video on that if you want to go watch that. It's pretty recent. But I have a laptop, a tablet, and a phone. So actually, in theory, all three of those could call up radars. I could do 3 separate radars if I wanted to. That's handy because situational awareness comes in all levels when you're storm chasing. And one of those levels is getting so focused on what your idea of where you want to go is, and not seeing the bigger picture. So I like having radar up in multiple places so I can see the bigger picture. And little sausage sticks, low carb. During my first chase on Sunday, I streamed. Second chase with you. This is the third chase. It started out great, talking about various things. And then, about an hour into it, I started forgetting that I was streaming. We chatted first, and I would take breaks. And I almost did this. I almost put a sign up on the dashboard that says, "You are live." Because I have a habit of, pointing out the errors of other drivers' ways. And a not so pleasant language. I think I spot could be some activity just west of Oklahoma City. If that's the case, then we're really having a show. didn't buy. Usually when I storm chase, if I get on a tornado warned storm, I feel like that's kind of a victory because there may only be one in the area. On Sunday there were three. I was on 3 different tornado warned storms. Didn't see a tornado, but that's because the environment wasn't real conducive to tornadoes. There was mid-level rotation. There's a cyclones. Like the low-level connection just wasn't there. And there was a lot of cold outflow from these storms. They were driven themselves off. I mean, I would set myself in a good position, and then I had to keep moving constantly because I would be in what you could really feel was warm, unstable air, and then it would just shift. So it was just cutting off the lower parts of the storm, not allowing any tornadic development. Pinch on yeah, sure seems like there's a cell due west. I mean, by cell, I mean really a blip. I mean, just not much. Well, no. Which radar are you looking at? Okay. That is west of Oklahoma City, right? He would cross I-40. So we're playing that's pretty well. The speed limit's down to 7 miles. Gusty winds here. Again, that's the convection of that warm, moist air. Yeah, I think we definitely have a beginning cell developing just west of Oklahoma City. Which, if that's the case, if that continues to develop, I would almost not go to Oklahoma City and try to find a more westerly route because that goes a little more southwest. That storm would track north of Oklahoma City, Edmond. But I'm not sure if it would be okay just to go to Oklahoma City and then just take I-35 north rather than go through smaller towns and stuff. These are all the decisions that have nothing to do with meteorology and have everything to do with, geography and roads and that kind of stuff. Brand new intersection here. Yeah, I did not realize that almost all of these tolls now are automated. But I did notice one thing. That everybody who is from around here, if you go to Oklahoma City or Tulsa, you know that one big toll booth between Tulsa and Springfield, or between Tulsa and Joplin, you used to pay $5 for. Well, you can still pay $5 if you have a Pike Pass. If you don't have a Pike Pass and you let the automatic system just scan you, it's $10. I'm thinking to myself, okay, so you have an automated system. You don't have people in toll booths anymore that you pay salaries to, benefits and all that, and you doubled the price of the toll. It doesn't make any sense to me. Brand new concrete in this one. Yeah, that cell right along the Red River there, right around Wichita Falls, is developing quite nicely. I would be betting my ideal situation would be for anything that's west of Oklahoma City to keep going. My ideal situation. The other storms are at arm's length. If I change gears like I almost did at my last break there outside of Tulsa, went north, probably could have caught that storm, but my feeling is that it's not, is that it's elevated as a higher risk. I don't know. A lot of times, though, the choice you're making in storm chasing is that you have meager moisture return, but you have better shear to the north, so you have this like balance. That's not the case here. The bulk shear, which is the amount of wind difference between the surface, about 6 kilometers up, is usually the one that's used. Is uniform just about everywhere. I mean, this jet stream is coming in a way that pretty much makes that an even playing field. That's why I'm kind of like, well, probably the southern storms are going to do best. Now, there could be small scale features in that jet stream that I'm just not being sensed. That could change that, obviously. Storm chasing is about making larger scale decisions until you physically can't change your mind anymore, and then you do the best with what you have. That's all about it. It's 6:39, so I think in terms of daylight, a lot of mid-level clouds here, that could be impeding the instability that developed in the afternoon. I don't know. Yeah, the more I look at the guidance, the map, Google Maps, the more I think it would probably be okay just to go into the northern part of Oklahoma City if that cell west of Tom continues to the guy passing me in the right, I'm going to let him. I really probably ought to be in the right lane anyway. Yeah, they're expanding all of this. Major highway improvement. That answers my question from earlier. That's where my doubling of coal is doing. Making this road better. It's pretty expensive. It's very expensive. It's like, you probably see it. A lot of dirt on either side, so they're really going to expand this. It's going to change lanes real quick here. If the storms don't form closer to Oklahoma City, I think there might be a few disappointing storm chasers out there. I don't think a lot of people are gambling. There's a mesoscale discussion, small one for that storm in north central Oklahoma. I die to see what that actually says, but I don't know if I can afford another. Well, I probably could afford another pull off just to see. That's it. I really can't push a button and read that while driving. But by golly, it ought to be possible for me to just say, can you please read the latest mesoscale discussion? For that to happen. If I thought about it long enough, I'm sure I could figure it out. But, the sun's pretty high in the sky still. I feel like it says maybe later than I don't know. Yeah, maybe not so much. So I don't know. Yeah, but there's a special mesoscale discussion just on that storm. When it started in Eden, it is now just about basically northwest of my position by about an hour. And yeah, if I started going north from Tulsa, I might have caught that storm. Just one of those judgment calls. Cold Not hope on that one. Rest of Oklahoma City. Zero situational awareness. Thank you, sir. See, this is where I'm starting to talk to cars. Trying to get over to the avoid those people on the right, but there's a guy passing me. I just adjusted my microphone. Is that a cell or is that a cell? Is that a wind? Nope. It's a cell. The easiest way to figure out on radar whether you're looking at a wind farm or an actual cell is to just put it in loop. It's kind of struggling a little bit. It's not really formed and it hasn't gotten any more intense. It's just right across I-40 right now. Let's see. Just make the discussions. That's all right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, basically the mesoscale discussion is saying that initially it's essentially saying these are all elevated, but that the risk for tornadoes will increase as the night progresses. I'm just not sure if it applies to that cell. It's certain that cell, which is kind of interesting. Usually the storm prediction center doesn't. There's a tornadic signature on that, so that might be the regret of the night is not chasing that. So let's see. Now, as always happens with severe weather, you know that there's usually a tail end, Charlie. Like usually there's backwards development. So like even if you miss the initial storm, there's still time for me to change my mind and go north in that one by Oklahoma City. And the idea would be that that initial cell would be gone. And anything that forms southwest behind it would take over and be a severe storm too. So I would have that opportunity basically to go north on, let's say, I-35, if that were the case, or maybe even before that. But it seems like the cells in the middle, and that one west of Oklahoma City's trying. Okay. what I would probably do here with the daylight that I have is I would just keep my eye on anything between Oklahoma City and, let's say, the Kansas state line. Not even that far north. I'm not sure what's up there. Let's see. Around I-35, I'm not sure. Northern Oklahoma. That's the idea. We're looking at either back building of that cluster of farms in north central Oklahoma. That would cause me to go north on I-35, because that's the fastest way to get up there. Or I would watch that storm west of Oklahoma City, which is not great, but it has increased just a little bit. I mean, by increase, I mean it's the lowest we've been. It's not great. The nice thing about that storm is, though, is that it's not so close to the other storms that it's sharing any kind of energy, so it has the ability to take off just as much as the other ones do. So I think that's a thing I can hope for. Okay, 6:49. Okay. Just under an hour, I think, of sunset. That's what I'm guessing. I don't know. Some of that bug juice is not going to come on. We are just a couple miles away from that. That's right. That interstate that nobody knows about. The turnpike that moves south. It has a name. It's actually a person that's named after. Is it Fitzgerald or something like that? I'd be curious to. I'll probably. I'm not sure what I'll do. It is, yeah, kind of interesting. Like, I might drive north I-35. The storm speed's not incredibly bad today. You know, I was talking about this on the last chase. You know, when your storm speeds get up above 50, you're not really storm chasing anymore. You're intercepting. You're almost becoming a spotter. I mean, you pick a spot away from the storm to come to you, because the idea that you're going to chase that is almost impossible. You know, you might be able to keep up with them if you had an ideal road network. But yeah, it just becomes really, like, the storm speed gets too fast. It's really not that much fun. Is it Patrick Fitzgerald? I can't remember the name of this turnpike. It goes due south, get up on 44, just northeast of Oklahoma City. All right, so duty. Yeah, I'm disappointed with the high cloudiness, because the sun is not going to be directly behind. Yeah, can you see that? It says plate pay $10.50. Used to be $5. Actually, I think it was anyway. But the sun there's a lot of high cloudiness, and the unfortunate part about that is unless that breaks lower to the horizon, it's really going to cause a kind of a premature end to this chase, because it's just going to darkness days, which those are not fun. I'm not saying I wouldn't do it, I won't do it, but you know, it's hard. You're relying on lightning. We're in Stroud. Change again. $55. Yeah, that little blip west of Oklahoma City is struggling, to put it mildly. So I might. I think my gamble of the night might be going north on I-35, try to catch any storms that develop along any outflow boundaries that this current cluster of storms might be leaving behind. That seems like the best plan to me. And again, if that storm, the little flippy guy, decides to do anything, I can use that method I was talking about. Well, these storms are not really northeast southwest oriented; they're more extreme northeast south southwest. So Stairstep method kind of breaks down a little bit in those conditions. Still says I'm streaming, but to who? Yeah. I just hope it's not more trouble than it's worth. Like for just joining this, you know, the dropout rate was really high on my first stream, which was Sunday. So, and then I saw that Starlink Mini was on sale. I looked at Walmart. I could get Starlink Mini for $350. The list price on those was like $600. So I just ordered one. The justification is I don't chase a lot, but one of the things I would like to do at home is, even if, because I have Brightspeed, fiber, but it's still subject to power outages. No matter even if you back up your router, you're probably not going to get internet when there's a power outage. But one of my goals would be to be able to still get either a backup generator or a power brick, and just have the ability to be on the internet, maybe even broadcast locally situations. So, and also if you ever go on a trip, I think Starlink is portable enough that you can bring it, set it up. Like I was talking about this in the last stream. It was like You can bring it to a vacation to a beach. Of course, you can. Opposed arguments there, like you're supposed to be going there to relax, not be in touch with the outside world. So, but it does give you flexibility. I mean, if you actually head to work, you can actually probably do pretty well. You're not sharing that with anybody else. You are sharing with everybody else trying to relay from the satellite, obviously. But I don't think Starlink is that popular yet. That we're in the Goldilocks period. I think we probably just get some pretty good speeds. I don't think they've figured it all out yet, to be honest. And then Blip, I don't know if that's going to be coming in. Now watch this guy. No situational awareness whatsoever. That's one of those people that decides to pass on the right, not actually assessing whether there's room to do so. And I'm going 80. So, okay. But I didn't swear at him. Oh, okay. I thought that was my seatbelt. That's the wire. How's that? There we go. I have a strong suspicion I am not streaming. It says I'm streaming, but I'm not sure. So, oh well. Figure it all out. My thinking is that with this high cloud deck, I think it actually cut it down. It actually cut down on hotspots, overheating areas where cable could have been maximized. I think there probably would have been a little bit more aerial coverage had that not been the case. I'm not saying that the overall instability is bad. They also put a special mesoscale discussion on that southern cluster, so this is definitely a cluster by cluster look at storms. I'd be curious to see what that one says too. That's actually heading up toward the Oklahoma City area, but I would run out of time, likewise, for any of that stuff to be anything meaningful. So what you could do is drop south. So I could go north and see if those thunderstorms up to the north are leaving behind a boundary, cool air boundary that I could tap into. There seems to be this middle area here that's having trouble. Well, that storm is it's getting a little bit better now. Getting close to the Oklahoma City area. It is 7 o'clock. Kind of wanted to be in Oklahoma City at 7, so I'm a little bit behind. Each of these stops, but nothing. I mean, I'm not missing anything either, so it's just a technicality. Yeah, I just wonder if those storms that are forming southwest of Oklahoma City are what I should be counting on. I've got time to look at that little blip and see if he develops anything. It seems to me, though, that it would have already happened. But in order to intercept those storms southwest of Oklahoma City, I would have to get immediately going south on I-35 to maximize time. Probably have to get off I-35, actually. And go a little bit more west. I don't know. Do another meteorology check here as soon as I get close to Oklahoma City. Lost track of the speed limit. Construction zone, as far as I can tell. Yeah, in terms of streaming, I think what I'm missing is the connection between OBS and YouTube. Like, so what I did was I set this to go off at 5 o'clock today. And in OBS you have to set up a broadcast, which I thought I did. Like I said, I looked like I had about 3 seconds of live streaming, and then everything just went and stopped working. And I tried various ways and methods, and I didn't want to spend a lot of time fixing this. This is one of those things that, in most cases, it's just got to work. Because I don't really have a lot of time to mess around. I'm giving up on the blip. The blip seems to be gone, so I think that's a sign that towers are trying to go up and something's inhibiting their growth. So now I have to decide if there's going to be back development on the northern activity, or if the southern activity is going to be more active. And the other thing is I-35 kind of vectors away from where I want to be. These storms are projected to be like south of Norman, Purcell, those areas. If that's the case, I can stay on I-35, but 35 would fail if I kept going south because it would move away from the storms. Again, light's a factor, evening is a factor. 75, that's so I think, given everything I know about the situation, I'll check some of the fields real quick, but I have a feeling that we're going south. I just feel like those farms are just going to have access to richer moisture, better wind fields. Nothing has been tornado warned yet. One up to the north has a good hail core, rotation, so it's in supercell. Not about that. Ones to the south are kind of congealing. They're actually 3 separate cells. One of them is stronger than the other 2, but the radar might be aliasing, favoring one of those. The strongest one will go up near Purcell, Highway 35 south. So that's probably what I'm going to do. But I don't know, navigation-wise, if there's a faster way to go around. That's my saves. So at this point, I could stop and make a meteorology check, but I mean it's going to be almost dark by the time I get to my target location. So yeah, it's one of those things where now you're almost kind of like, well, did I make all the scientific decisions right? So part of your pride would be, did I get a tornado warned storm? I can at least say that, even though I may not see anything. That's okay. That does happen. So far, knock on plastic, I haven't missed anything yet. That's always heartbreaking. Like, tornado warning goes up on the news. That's why Sunday's chase was very satisfying, because I definitely daisy chained that chase. That's not out yet. I know I'm working on it. But I daisy chained that tornado like 1, 2, 3, right down the line. Ended up in Jonesboro, Arkansas. That first tornado was embedded in rain. It was very weak. There was one tornado report. I wish I had the video because I was relying on streaming, but I wasn't actually recording independently. The stream stopped, or it was very choppy. You really couldn't see anything. But there was this amazing inflow jet on the southern end of what could have been a tornado at the time I was looking at it, and it was picking up dust and blowing it across the road. And I thought it was an outflow boundary. Actually, it was. It was actually cold air wrapping around the base of the potential tornado. Probably was one in there somewhere. And but the situational awareness was very interesting because they just extended a thunderstorm warning from southern storms, which I was wondering about. But the situational awareness was interesting because when I saw that, I was like, okay, well that's just cold air. And then I saw the rain blowing, and I'm like, you know what? There's probably a weak tornado in there, so I stopped and waited, and then proceeded forward. Came on the other side, you know. But I never did see a tornado report or any damage reports, except for the one reported tornado before when it was west of me. So, actually, those storms would come right at my current position if I had the patience to wait for them. A lot of work zones on the old highway today. Like 65, it looks like, yeah. If I had to guess what Oklahoma's doing, I do know this is a new interstate. Means you can take the bypass them. Maybe we'll check it. But it only goes down to I-40 and then stops. think that would be very useful to me. And they were really working on it. Wow. I happily help you have fun. Yeah, I think there would be more storm hotspots today. I've not had this high cloud deck. It's really holding me back. I think I-35 is probably the quickest way to get out of those storms. So there's a new, I can't make out what road that is. There's a new interstate that goes south out of 4 and ends at I-40. And it doesn't look like it would do me much good. I mean, I would avoid the metropolitan area, but then it would just basically die. And I still have to go. Yeah, I think it's 6 or half a dozen. I mean, I think it just makes a square no matter what. Central Oklahoma City retake this, unless they one day they complete that. See how that really helps homes. Oh, hello. Hi. Oh, 90 miles an hour. You can see the sun in the shot. So losing that, and like I said earlier, but it's really disappointing to have that high cloud deck for multiple reasons. The second reason is that it's just absolutely not going to help with backlighting at all. So if we had clear skies off to the west of these developing storms, you would make their visibility even after sunset at least a possibility. Now it's going to be a real fight. Drinking water now. Northern storms have not really done much anything else. As far as I can tell, they both have about the same organizational frame. Um, remember, the wind fields are going to get better with time tonight. It's just that we're not going to mainland. So that's a real chase. I mean, I don't think it's going to go all night. I mean, I think that if you're in eastern Oklahoma or eastern Kansas, you know, I think you're still in for a ride with some of these storms. Just because it's not convenient to chase them doesn't mean they're not going to be. Keeps turning. There we go. Doesn't mean they're not going to be good. Tighten that down. Actually, the sky's cleared up a little bit, so that might help the backlighting a little bit. Still a high deck of clouds, but at least that mid-level deck seems to be thinning out a little bit, so that might help. I don't think that's going to appreciably, in instability. Oh yeah, the Kickapoo Turnpike. That's what I couldn't remember. Yeah. I don't think that one. I mean, maybe the map didn't update, but I don't think the Kickapoo Turnpike is going to really help me out very much. Less traffic, maybe. I don't know. I kind of want to try it. Maybe the map's not updated. Maybe it goes more south than it. Ah, what the heck? We get on the Kickapoo Turnpike. I mean, I'm paying a toll anyway. This is a toll road. Yeah, the sun's really coming out. This is good. This is just added probably about 15 or 20 minutes to the usable, visible storm chase. Yeah, so it goes 240. And then I think backtrack west on 40. It gets me out of the congestion of Oklahoma City, I guess. Not that it's that bad. Just gotta read a lot of signs, so make sure you take the right exits. It's a new adventure. Gotta fix that microphone. I'm crazy. Keep turning. Tight. Yeah. 335. Alright. Very exciting. Not really. But yeah, a little bit. So, looking at that for a while. Straight on, baby, to I-40. Yeah. I think it's safe to say that within my chase zone, that we are not going to see any storms, probably anywhere else. And within the chase zone, I mean within my chaseable time frame. These southern storms are in. So as they say, that one of the phrases that you can use is like, when I just turn south to chase these storms, a phrase you can use is, "It's too late, you're pregnant." So this is the decision of the night. There's no going back on the northern storms. That's it. Sorry for the microphone noise here. I can't 17 miles. Can't really tie that down. There may not be anybody watching. I have no idea. Really, it would be irritated in YouTube. No, it can't get irritated. I mean, it just seems like it seems like when you're on your phone, you can go live on YouTube like instantly. The rest of this stuff is just set up in a weird way. I think when we get to I-44 or I-40, make an evaluation. That would be my next sort of recording. Do kind of a little bit of meteorology. Try to figure out if these storms. I don't know. One of the things I'm wondering about is, forget the tornado part. They don't seem to be really good at getting bigger and more organized. I don't know if that's some sort of limiting factor in the atmosphere that's creating the issue or not. And I may call this storm chase because, the more south I head, I'm not real crazy about chasing at night unless it's really, really obvious. So I'm going to I'll make a call here pretty soon as whether I'm hightailing back home, call another experiment or continue to press on, whether there's any value at all in chasing this at night. It would have to be ideal conditions. Again, having that sun not at its optimum is a part of the decision making, to be honest. But, I mean, it looks like it's brighter. It may be that I might call this chase early. There's no sense in getting in at 2 o'clock in the morning. Kind of a half-baked opportunity. If I turn around now, it would still be late. It would be midnight. There is another severe weather setup for tomorrow. Very large area of enhanced risk. This was always a little conditional. Like I said, nighttime were not the restriction. I didn't have to get back home and wake up in the morning. I think this will actually eventually produce something. But 7:26. So it's not sunset. So yeah. So I had sunset all wrong out here. So sunset's going to be closer to 7:45. Okay. For April 1st, that's good to know. Feel the south winds out there. Really, really energetic. So this is one of those situations where I think the wind field is more than cooperative. I just don't know that the storms themselves have what it takes to really get going. I don't know. Yeah, I think they are organized well, but they're starting to turn right a little bit, which is what I expect. But man, that's all the way down to, that's a long, long drive. I just don't know if I necessarily want to do that for a nighttime chase. If I had nothing to do the next morning, I would just stay the night, get home, and have things to do. So that's the problem with chasing during a weekday. It doesn't always work out real well. At this point, I would have to hope for additional storm development, and I just don't think that's going to happen. It's nice, brand new rollway. Never been on it before. I want to open my spicy pickles. Am I streaming? That's funny. Is he streaming or is he not streaming? Does anybody know? I'm guessing no, because I think my son, well, he's got a lot to do. I realize he's got a lot going on. I told him I was chasing, but I didn't know if he knew I was streaming. He probably would have been on me by now saying, yeah, you're not showing up there. But at the same token, he did text me and saying, I can't see you either. So, I don't know, maybe he just forgot to check. I don't know. It's interesting to drive through Oklahoma because you can clearly see where tornadoes had traveled in the past. Pretty obvious. Stumped off trees that are regrowing. Yeah, pretty obvious. When I was on my Sunday storm chase, I actually crossed three uh, tornado paths at least. Maybe another one, I don't know. Two were visible. One I knew I had crossed just because I knew the map and it was nighttime and I didn't see the damage. And the other two I did see the damage, and that was from the storms on the 14th Friday night. Bakersfield just chased that. If you want to look at that video that's out there, it was a nighttime chase. It's in the Ozarks, without an armored vehicle. Not something that. A lot of the stuff I'm just trying is to see. This is one as well. This is these last couple of chases. There might have been a tornado involved. Certainly it was close on Sunday, but this wasn't quite making the picture. Same today. There's just a little bit of an element missing. And the storms are just the ones that are within reach of home, not doing anything special. And the ones that are out in the south here, I'm just not sure. I'm gonna get off here. I don't see any services here. Maybe some convenience store or something, or I can see 4 miles to I-40. And I had to go west a little bit to get to 35. And I just don't think that this chase is going to go around. I might be pulling the plug on it. Like, I'm pretty sure I'm pulling the plug on it. Because I thought there might be some initiation by 7 o'clock. A little more upscale. I'm not seeing that initiation. The war motion is very slow. That's what's allowing me to get most of this one on this one. See? Yeah. I'd have to go all the way down on 35 to make on those times. going to take I-40 west. Maybe get back to 35. Either just turn around or go and just take I don't know. I just don't see myself. We'll do a meteorology analysis here. Do the videotape recording in case I'm not streaming at all. This one I think is a bust. City. Going there. Find a convenient place to get off. There's definitely some suppressing activity for that cell that was trying to develop west of Oklahoma City. And probably some sort of capping inversion, or perhaps some jet stream circulation that was using downward motion. I don't know. Hard to say. That's a really steep profile right there. They got those yellow poles. Same. So this is basically I-40. Not sure why that got on screen into me. Yeah, I think we're going to call. I do see finally the towering heads on those storms on the south. And they are getting better organized. I say there is going to be a tornado tonight. I think that would probably be it. But I just don't think that I don't think I have the energy to pursue a nighttime chase on something that's this destructive. I think I'd have to wait even more after to see those. And being that's a weeknight, make a practical call here. So just waiting for the next exit that has services. Probably call this chase. I'll look at the meteorology report. I don't think so. I don't know when I'll stop the stream. Maybe the stream. But yeah, lots of thunderstorm warnings. I think they are organizing better. There's one cell that's kind of a renegade cell that's off away from those, but that is a lot more. It's not worn, it's very small. I see some services coming up here, so I'll probably get off here. And I think I will call the stream. If the stream is going indeed, I think I will call it because while my camera does have a night vision function on it, even if I were to see something, I honestly don't think it would be very valuable. So, and if I decide to keep chasing, I doubt I'll have a recap of this, obviously. But I got to work on it Sundays before I finish this one. So I got some editing to do. So, alright. And before, again, I'm just assuming there is a stream, so I'm going to keep. I'll show you the meteorology real quick here. And we'll shut that off. So it's north. Okay, so yeah, the radar's not even on an active storm. That's funny. Yeah, so the storms down to our south, and I can show those to you real quick, are indeed organizing a little bit better. If I were to turn on the Frederick radar, first of all, let's get rid of me. And then the second thing we'll do is call up that radar. And the northern storms are mere shadows of themselves. Oklahoma City. So this cluster of storms right here is something that I want to watch. But it is so far away from me right now. I would have to travel. Yeah, I don't like where I would have to travel. So basically, there are storms on the northern and southern end of the tornado watch. I think these storms down to the south, there are already some deviant motion. See how those severe thunderstorm warnings keep being issued more to the east. So if you take the center line and look at the next one, it's a little bit more deviant to the right. So, and I could take the time to maybe load up Frederick, the Frederick radar, but yeah. Anyway, I think that's probably something I'm going to call. Let's look at the meteorology real quick, though. I said I would do that. So let's go back to the screen. Turn on the mesoanalysis page. And we'll go to that page. We'll all find out together what it looks like. Let's see here. Okay, so that is the LCL height, which tells me that all these storms are going into an area of low LCL, which is, again, good. I'm not even sure that's updated. It's awfully familiar to me. Let's look at, let's just go ahead and look at that significant tornado parameter. Yeah, see, it's showing just south of Oklahoma City that's pretty good. If I go to the temperature, dew point, and wind map, then we've got a pretty good flow of moisture in here. So that's fine. I'm just wondering if I'm missing out on the magic, of the that happens right around sunset. Let's look at our Cape values real quick. There seems to be a cap developing that's pretty stout, and I think that is probably the limiting factor. This atmosphere is getting capped pretty quick. So anywhere where you see the blue shading on there, so storms that already have a foothold probably have a chance, but anything else that's trying to develop is really like that cell I saw west of Oklahoma City. It's getting stomped on, basically. So I don't know. Yeah, actually, I do know. Let's go back to here. Turn off the mesoanalysis page. Those are the cells that, again, do I want to chase those? Probably not. Looking at my stats, I'm only dropping about 14% of my frames, but I don't know if it's going anywhere. Okay, let's look at one more thing. Let's look at, yeah, we got the radar. I'm going to go back to the radar real quick. And then there's that cell right there. Again, I don't think that cell has much of a chance of developing. In fact, it already had developed. It's actually weakened a little bit. That's the one that's going to cross right by Purcell. And actually would go just south of me. So, optimistically, if I were to go east on 40 a little bit, that's something I could do. I went east on 40, and then I took, I don't know, there's several north roads that could get me back to 44 if I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. That's a possibility. But again, that it all depends on whether that cell, a little tiny one, see, I'll zoom in on that. Right there, is that even worth talking about? It seems like it's going to get squashed. I mean, a little cell that could. See that little guy right there? Wind fields are very strong. But I think there's a capping. I just think that the cap is settling in pretty bad. So, I don't know. Yeah, I might go down 40 real quick. And then maybe hang out there, at least make some progress closer to home and see what these cells do. And then I will call the stream, though. So if you are watching, thank you. I appreciate it. The technology is getting better. This face didn't quite live up to it. It was always conditional, though, to be honest. So now I'm finally adjusting my microphone. Let's see. There, that's better. Okay. Hey, better late than never, right? So the activity in northern Kansas. Again, if you're in southeast or northern Oklahoma, if you're in southeast Kansas, these cells could be still a show. If you're, let's say, near Chanute in the next couple of hours or north of Independence, those areas, if they turn right, maybe even Parsons, Kansas, within an hour and a half or so, cells are not in any big hurry. The storm motion is very slow. Again, that group of cells down to my southwest, yeah, those are too far. But if that cell kind of southwest of Purcell were to develop, I'd be in a position to kind of intercept that if I just kind of meandered eastward a little bit on I-40. But they're not moving real fast, so I'll just have to weigh that against that and going home. So I'm going to stop the stream. Thank you if you were watching. Hopefully it was. I'm going to do some recording, some meteorological recording here for posterity. So thank you very much. See you on the next one.